going to happen. But first, we got to figure out, where it is unfolding. Game 1 on Battlefield, Game 2 in Volskaya. For 3, we're going to the most played map in the world right now, Towers of Doom, selected by HeroesHearth Esports.
This is a map that they've done well on. When it comes to their record, they were 3-2 in the first part, but when it looks at the way that they win, they were dominant in their victories. On the other side, Simplicity, not so much. It's probably been one of their weaker battlegrounds. Haven't looked terrible on it, but again, it does lend to their favor in that it's more of a team fight-oriented map for them. So it does open that door. The Stukov can potentially be there, but you start to wonder now we're 2 for 2 in terms of Hanzo games, whether it's Battlefield of Eternity or Volskaya. When we went back to the earlier part, Kroan was targeted a little bit more. Hosty said that. We saw Hanzo picked up post-second ban in the first game, this time pre-second ban because of the way the draft order was. I'm wondering, do we see a different approach, or will it continue to be around that Medivh pick?
Yeah, the Medivh pick, because in Game 2, that was selected by HeroesHearth Esports, and when we saw them in the second pick slot, unwilling to give it up, right? And so knowing game number 3 draft-wise, we can, I think, it's probably fair to assume, especially if you're willing to ban it, on the last map, very much, Towers of Doom is a map that kind of promotes Medivh playstyle. So I feel like on the side of HeroesHearth, we can assume that to be the Medivh, but that is going to raise a lot of questions for Simplicity and what they need to find for themselves in the draft.
All right, we saw Medivh game 1, banned game 2. Again, Hosty is very well refined on this hero. It's just a matter of getting the team synergy down, making sure that it's a team practice strategy. Genji being hovered here, not the Medivh. Put that onus on HeroesHearth to ban the Medivh or maybe Maiev, and HeroesHearth dealt with the Maiev last game.
They did end up dealing with that Maiev pretty well, and the Genji ban is still falling into the same pattern we've seen so far, like we saw in the last game. There it is. So is it still the first pick Maiev, or is it a Tyrael or Malfurion instead? Simplicity? You would think it's the Maiev, just because the objective strength that she provides seems unrivaled. And they seem to agree here. Still going to lock that in. I would honestly love the same rotation out of HeroesHearth. I would not mind if they went anything different. I think the Malfurion, or if you want to avoid that, going into the Uther. But as long as you go with the Tyrael, honestly, I might even prefer the Uther, but just because you don't have a Genji or a hyper carry for the double invuln. I mean, Hanzo probably could be it, but you have to risk getting past the secondary ban phase, which raises that question you were just asking. Like, is that something that Simplicity is going to be answering, or at least focusing on?
You have to consider it at this point, right? I mean, you have to consider it. I think the Tyrael, we saw the Malf Tyrael last game, and I think the Tyrael, when you look at the fact that it's Maiev on the other side, we've seen a little bit more priority towards Garrosh, things like that. ETC, not so much, which has been a prominent hero for Ishbu, but when you see Maiev on the other side, if you don't have those mobility tools, or maybe something like a Johanna with the Iron Skin, you're more adept to go something that has more of an escape option. I think Tyrael kind of fits that mold, so I imagine we'll see Tyrael here unless they want to mix it up. No, they go with it.
Malfurion Tyrael. So the response on the other side was a Garrosh Junkrat. I don't think we'll see that exact same rotation from Simplicity. Maybe the Garrosh, if they want to put more threat and kind of fear into the Tyrael opportunities, the front line, it's very difficult to kind of have that, but I don't know. I don't feel like Garrosh is poor by any means under this meta. He is very much maybe at the top of his game, debatably, other than initial release. But it does typically draw out resources in the ban phase, especially with things like Malthael, and it's whether or not it's worth the commitment of those resources, again, with other major priority heroes that we know HeroesHearth has committed to through all of HGC part number 1.
If Garrosh is considered this strong now, he should have been an every game pick on his release. That was OP.
Yes, he probably should have been.
Stukov, will it be the Garrosh or will it be something else? Stukov, obviously, a very...
Wow. Gonna mix it up.
I mean, I guess you can't escape with Tyrael if you're silenced.
Hey, that's a good point. Having the double lockdown opportunity to make the Tyrael... I guess it does provide equal amount of threat. Not so much equal, but definitely provides a lot of second guessing when it comes to Tyrael and his sanctification opportunities. The Stukov plus the Warden's Cage synergy we know to be... I mean, it's terrifying. You just can't do anything whenever you get pulled in over and over again into the lurking arm. But HeroesHearth has to feel pretty comfortable here with what they have in the draft. I would expect probably a ban either into a support, which probably not actually, the Stukov being high priority. Then if not, the side lane has got to be something they give consideration to.
I would love to see a Malthael ban here and then go into Dahaka. Towards the later part of Phase 1, we saw a lot of Dahaka from McIntyre, and that's kind of how he got his groove back. Because he was struggling in the early part, but when it came to the Dahaka, it started to mount up in terms of the way that he was being effective. And if he goes into that route, Stukov, he doesn't do well against flanking. The Malthael comes in. He does not do well against flanking heroes. And this is a map where you can get a little bit more of those flank opportunities when you have the Dahaka.
I agree with you when it comes to the Dahaka and the threat that would be able to kind of provide. We see the Malthael ban. I just wonder, you know, Dahaka, I'm so torn. He's not a bad hero. I just really struggle to look at him and go, I think you out-trade Blaze whenever I have the option to have a Blaze, right? And this is one of the few maps where I think I can see the justification. That being said, I personally think I still fall on the Blaze side. Like, I'd like to see them move into the Blaze. With the Malthael, I would say, I mean, it's inevitable. We see one of those two picked up in this rotation for them. Unless somehow they have a wild Garrosh here we don't know about, and Tyrion's going to be our off-laner. But again, just because, yes, the global is amazing and those rotations are, but macro and sitting with the side soaking Dahaka, that doesn't happen anymore. He's got to brush stock in, and I'd rather my bunker, my jet propulsion, my self-sustain, and that AoE damage he provides to get the kind of outweigh there.
If you get the bottom lane.
Yes.
Then Dahaka's value.
He's a win harder hero, right? But I can never draft with the dependence of I'm winning the game.
I'm with you. I got you. I think that's definitely the way, but
we forgot
to
about
hell
her.
with it. We'll just go with Sonya. She's reworked, and she's pretty strong.
We forgot the reworked Sonya. She comes, very, very beefy. Some of the changes to her. Generally speaking, though, compared to the difference in the reworks, I would say Sonya by far closer to what you knew before the rework compared to, you know, what we see out of Medivh. Medivh's playstyle is very different compared to before, especially when you consider the impact he can have in the game and how he impacts it. Sonya, you know, she still does damage to the front line, still a general beefy threat, not easy to kill. I want to put her as solo warrior status by any means.
I'm trying to figure out where that leaves Simplicity. We saw a lot of Hanzo for Hosty in the early part, and if they're going to go another melee, which seems like Lizuna was the Maiev player last game, if they do go Blaze or Dahaka, depending here, but Blaze obviously could be high priority, that's going to leave you with a single range damage dealer. Hosty in Phase 1 was one of the top damage dealers in terms of hero damage provided for his team. He's been carrying pretty hard in that role, but I don't know if that's enough against the likelihood of a Sonya Tyrael composition that could potentially be getting on that. It requires a lot of protection. We go with the Cassia.
Even though I was going to say, even though we only have really one main auto attacker, that being Tychus, but that's unfair to say. Sonya has a lot of single target damage output that comes from her auto attacks, but not so much since the rework. I don't know, that's unfair to say, but the follow-through opportunities aren't there, so unless you see the Shot of Fury passive kind of pick up and still see that focus of build, it's not going to be through her auto attacks where it used to be in the same manner. It used to be a kind of a, I'd say like 60-40 split, 60 being spell, 40 autos. So I guess I'm sitting here going, is the Cassia going to be that big of a deterrent to be able to stop what we see in the composition of HeroesHearth? Maybe second guess some of the positioning and uses around, you know, sanctification, but beyond that,
just trying to think of what this might be. If they go Junkrat, I'd be okay with that, but I think with the Tychus, I don't know if they're willing to play that style. I think the Junkrat does incredibly well on this battleground and against this. Triple melee?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if you go with the triple melee in this situation. They go with the Junkrat. Gonna throw out the poke, just mainly because ETC Blaze, Maiev, even though you're like, okay, Stukov is going to have a heyday in that type of circumstance, it's just Arthas, whenever he's the one stuck into the Morden's cage. We saw actually KSV Black use it. It's very good deterrent to making it to where you Icebound Fortitude, you have the single target survivability. He might not get the teamfight effectiveness that you normally would like out of a hero, but he very much could stop the bleeding over that immediate initiation and really turn things around pretty quickly for the team. Either way,
with HeroesHearth, they're one of the few teams that could probably get away with that because of the flexibility of Arthalon. So that's definitely on the table. You know, I like the fact that we're seeing a little bit more diversity. The Medivh pick, you know, we've seen kind of the change up here. The Thrall there, the numbers last game, Thrall was tops in hero damage, by the way. Crash Lightning pretty strong. Now we're seeing the Junkrat Tychus.
Kappa.
Junkrat Tychus here. Dread, I want to hit you with this before we go into game because coming into this week, we were looking at some of the stats. Crowan. And when you look at all the ranged heroes, basically everybody in North America, he provided 42% of the kills for his team in terms of like total contribution. Normally in that range carry role of everybody else, it's low 30s, maybe even lower. It's a lot more diverse. In the early part of phase 1, there was a lot of weight on Crowan's shoulders to be that guy to carry his team. With HeroesHearth, now with the Sonya pickup, the Junkrat, the Thrall last game, I think this is a much more balanced HeroesHearth coming into the second part.
We're going to figure out if they have figured out that balance, as they are now looking at match point, that being HeroesHearth Esports up 2 games. But in the blue here, it is Simplicity. Running a bit more of the composition, you know, kind of all in, obviously, as you look at the lack of range. Cassia is a ranged hero, but she has limited range compared to some of the other ranged assassins, especially that of a Junkrat and a Tychus. Everybody else in the Beef squad is going to be, you know, really I feel like second-guessing positioning, especially once we get post-13 with the Holy Ground opportunities on the side of HeroesHearth. I don't know if we're going to see a Twilight Dream. I'd expect it to be Sanctification because you do have, or excuse me, Tranquility. I call those the same. I don't know why. This is the second time, but the Tranquility just because of the Sanctification and enabling the anti-burst. But it is an interesting trade-off. Tranquility, my goodness. That is a conversation piece that I could talk about for days.
Uh-oh. He's not. There's no.
I mean, he can, and he will.
Okie dokie. Ishbu coming in with you shall not pass moment.
Yeah, the biggest thing was Ishbu with the not only dismounting, but making sure the kind of lack of rotation from 2 of the members down, and then also providing that shielding with the smite. It's enough to be able to allow BBJ to walk out of here. A lot of focus here for these 2 teams towards that bottom lane. Zuna using the shadow a bit earlier. Maybe Light goes back in with a tether. And it's going to put Crowan in a bad spot, getting body blocked on the other side. Throws down the spray and pray. It's a lot of damage. Stukov using Lurking Arm. No follow-up in the shadow quite yet from Zuna. And they're going to allow Crowan here to get out once again, surviving by just barely. BBJ, or excuse me, Ishbu throws down the Eldruin, but BBJ is met by King Caffeine through that choke, can't move past it. Doesn't even have to drop the auto, just hit H, and that is now a first blood for Simplicity.
A big body there, man. Like you're not walking through this beefy character. No pun intended, maybe.
Beef is what's for dinner. That's what I feel every time I hear an ETC die somewhere on the battlefield.
Well, right now we've got our attention turned towards the Sapper camps here in the bottom as we see Simplicity. A little bit of a head start so far. HeroesHearth, without a lot of their damage dealers, have elected to kind of back off their Stride.
Yeah, it makes sense considering the loss of a hero on the bottom lane, that they lost a lot of momentum during a very crucial window. Simplicity doing a good job of punishing, but unless they really, you know, kind of do more than just escort these in, I feel like it's very unrealistic that it's worth much, because Junkrat has been stuck in mid the entirety of this game because of the rotational advantage that we see from Simplicity in their wave clear. And because of that, it essentially makes it to where one of their best deterrents and clearers is not going to make it to the bottom lane. This should have been, you know, pretty reasonably escorted is what I'm trying to say, no matter what the case was because of this laning circumstance. So Simplicity maybe look for an invade I would have liked to see from them over that time frame, but now that is going to be a miss as they do see 20 seconds out from our first altar phase. Sonya even getting the camp on top has really been a nice way to kind of, you know, adjust to the losing early game that HeroesHearth has experienced.
Yeah, Battle Rage has been, you know, a bigger one because you get the heal, although wait a minute, Arthalon trying to stay alive. Prismat, he's got his way over. They're trading out, but those flames confirm the kill there.
That was a great job with that jet propulsion, knowing that the concussion mine was going to be set right underneath Arth. He needed to get that stack right there. Very easy, predictable rotation. Hold up, though. Ishbu caught out a little bit too long on this camp as the attempt. I was going to say there was an attempt in rotation, but definitely miscommunication here on the side of HeroesHearth. Cost them not only the kill, but they lose Sappers and 2 of those altars.
That's a big deal. Again, Simplicity getting control of the early game here is something they desperately need, as they do have 3 kills to 0, almost a full level lead, which will be obtained here as this tower goes down. And they're starting to open this up, and we know how dominant this bottom lane can be. See if they can do more with it, as Simplicity has 4 members down here in the bot lane. They will need to go back and catch that mid lane soak. Zuna is going to be that person to do it.
And those sappers are very, very important for Simplicity on that bottom lane, not only because of the priority they're displaying, but when looking at the melee and, you know, the sieging capabilities that they have as a team, the answer is kind of non-existent. And so whenever they can convert that bottom bell tower, or at least get the sappers to kind of set it up to be converted at a more optimal time for the team, it is going to be a very huge win, something that they generally need kills to kind of gain that breathing room, and they've done that very well for the first 4 minutes of this game, accumulating a total of 3 here. But by no means is it out of control for HeroesHearth. Plus, we know they're a team, I mean, it really feels like they come online most whenever they hit the later stages, those 16, 20 talent tier fights, using that kind of overly synergistic compositions that we expect from HeroesHearth.
I want to see how Simplicity handles the fact that there are so many interrupts between Concussion Mine, the grenade. You're just probably not going to get mosh pits off. So stage diving, how do you get back there, right? You'll have Ice Block for Malfurion, post-level 10 Odin grants you the unstoppable status plus the armor. Where do we see the King Caffeine ETC value in these team fights? And will he be the one that splits off to potentially be that solo laner as we get to the later part of the game to act as the only global that we have if he does go to the stage drive route? Honestly,
I think his job is completed if he even gets a knockback on Sanctification without using and costing his life. Anytime we see Ishbu gaining a value onto one target and it ends up costing him his life, or at least, you know, or at least second guessing the opportunity to get those initiations, it's going to be a big win, which is why you see them sticking together. But Zuna sticking a bit too close with McIntyre there, has to use that nice teleport out on this Shadow. Big control over this middle altar for HeroesHearth. Bottom going to be attempted by Caffeine.
Yeah, Cap's going down there. You can see him on the minimap. Arthlon potentially gets the interrupt, but it doesn't look like it. Although the grenade comes in there, that's your quarterback as you've got that talent. Finn goes around, does some damage onto Ishbu.
Sonya did get the channel on mid though. 10 closing in here for Simplicity. K1 Pro starts the channel. Interrupt there. McIntyre's going to flank. They're going to go in. Damage onto K1. Interrupted. Power slide is there. Knockback as well. K1 Pro, or excuse me, the lurking arm is not enough to get the determinant from K1 Pro.
10.
First map falls low, and 10 is here.
10 is here, and this is going to be HeroesHearth having to retreat. They fought valiantly enough to hold their own there, not dropping any members, almost turned it around. Forget stage dive. He is going mosh pit, and with the amount of interrupts that we have there, it's going to be very, very opportunistic. I mean, sometimes all it takes is one mosh pit, but I don't think it's going to be easy to pull it off.
Yeah, I think, again, for me, it's going to be one of those ETC games where you look for King Caffeine and it's not the how many power slides did you set up for your kills for your team. It's literally just the one-man job. How difficult is Ishbu's life now because we see him onto the ETC? And then, you know, those mosh pits probably going to be one-man, two-man later after the fight. It's one of those kind of win the fight even further focus for him. But I agree with you. It is one of those moments where I did kind of expect, you know, is this the stage dive adjustment? But King Caffeine feeling confident here on his ETC.
Still no 10 for HeroesHearth as they pull one of the sappers off to the side, making sure that they don't take the full brunt of the force of 3 sappers potentially pushing in. But 10 almost here. We'll see if we got some roots down, maybe some clear. HeroesHearth with level 10. They're going to try and defend.
Tether onto Ishbu. No follow-up from Cap. Roots go down. Silence goes down. Sappers make their way in, getting the poke and prod. Caffeine, sapper number 2, makes his way in. Nice attempt there from Crowan. This is, what is this, 4 cycles of sappers on bottom already? And we see Simplicity unable to convert that bell tower. That was kind of just highlighting the lack of siege that their composition has. But they're getting enough to where this is a pretty big win for them. They might be able to set this up, prep it to where they don't necessarily all in, wait until the altar spawns, win a fight, then convert that bell tower, and that's their moment to really choke out that bottom lane. Tether onto Ishbu. He's just going to stick around.
If HeroesHearth is going to start to find their way back in, I think it starts right here. Level 13 for Simplicity, not really close. They can kind of hold off. There's the slide, the follow-up, the stun, the silence. Ishbu does get down the Sanctification just in time. Tranquility out as well, but we got the Warden's Cage Dread.
Locks down 2, Vault used to get out of here. Zuna falling very low, ends up going into that bunker. Arthlon getting zoned off on the jump grab. McIntyre trying to help out, but he gets a massive shove. Crow and gets the interrupt onto Zuna. 2 auto attacks, sets him now to 5%. Mac fishing around, trying to find himself an Ancient Spear that's going to connect.
The bell tower fell. That bell tower ended up falling in the bottom lane just due to the creep factor. And now HeroesHearth recognizing they only have 1 retreat point. they're going to back off. The threat of 13 and that bottom lane being choked off from them, Simplicity puts themselves in a strong spot.
Yeah, they're in a very good situation now. Now it's just how much can they keep control of that bottom lane. Their composition is, again, positioning-wise around that wall of death and kind of defending around that should be weakened by specifically the Tychus, Malfurion, and the Junkrat on the side of HeroesHearth Esports. Junkrat making the transition down to deal with that for now. As we see the 13s being locked in here for Simplicity. It really is just now going to be an experience game, slowing down the pace on the side of HeroesHearth and then looking for that miracle late game team fight, or maybe catching somebody out a bit too far soaking. Somebody who was caught out a bit too far soaking behind his wall of death. That, in fact, was Junkrat. Very well done here for Simplicity. 4th kill of the game.
Yo, man, he's just chilling. Leave him alone. We're seeing a little bit of different build here on Maiev. Going into the Umbral Bind build. That requires you to land those, applying tethers, secondary tethers, amping up the damage. And that's something we don't traditionally see. But Zuna obviously wears a different hat sometimes when he plays some of these newer heroes.
Got to go for the blaze. Sapper on bottom, pushing out. Crowan might wish he was a little bit farther out there. No dismount yet. Tether lands on a Mac. Jet propulsion there. See, no attempt at the Wrath. There goes a full Warden's Cage. Tranquility used. Crowan trying to chase away from Hosty, but he's going to get blown up there with a nice fend. Zuna now is the focus for the team. Caps there to get the peel. Tether in onto BBJ. 2 kills for nothing. Simplicity just lighting up HeroesHearth.
They're lit him up indeed as Hosty going off there. A ball lightning. K1 Pro, that's one way to interrupt the Riptire. Now that bell tower is firing shots, but minions are there. K1 Pro, see if he has the heal.
He keeps himself alive long enough, and Ishbu walks into a wall of Simplicity. Vault used to dodge the Tyrael passive. 5 shots going to be an easy pickup after this after this altar is picked up. And we're looking at, what, 18 shots on the core of HeroesHearth here. We are, what, 3 altar phases away? Not even altar phases, excuse me, just altars, probably 2 away from them. And with the 16 closed in for Simplicity, this looks like she might be all she wrote. HeroesHearth need to find a way to hold on.
I believe next altar phase should be our 5th, which means it's 3 altars and the threat of 16. If you don't have it, you generally have to concede 2. And if they still have 2 of these altars or these bell towers, down here at the bottom, they still have this one. That's 10 more shots going over compared to 3, and it is the 5th one. The threat of 16 is now here.
Sapper's going to take a while. HeroesHearth ideally just want to get as much damage in this downtime onto the objective that they can. Power slide. Good dodge there from Crowan. Using that small little dash Tychus has. All right, here they move up. Expect K1 Pro to look for a nice lurking arm here to make this defense that much more difficult. Even a massive shove beforehand.
See Crowan.
Ishbu's trying to zone off. 2 have been removed thanks to Arthalon on that Junkrat. 3rd one gets knocked back. Crowan, he's going to get rid of that. No shots here for Simplicity. That, I would argue, is a lot because of the melee problem. That's what I was trying to highlight with their composition, is even though they convert it, it's not nearly as oppressive we often see. Mac, though, getting pulled back there after using that talent to get the always pull on Sonya.
Ishbu and team are looking to try and turn this before this next altar phase. There's 2 members here.
Zuna.
They don't see them yet. Zuna should be fine as he uses his vault. Goes ahead and jumps on out as well. Bottom sappers were picked up again. Gonna handcuff HeroesHearth a little bit tighter to that bottom lane. This Junkrat doing his best to clear out. Ishbu's gonna hold here. He's gotta be careful not to overstage right now.
I mean, I think he's already done exactly just that, as he is way out there. Eldruin's not gonna be up for a few more. He's got his Sanctification now. If he's got any shot, there it is. Q in any Eldruin's attempt should still be a kill, is going to be the case. Kill here for Simplicity. We've got to ask ourselves the trade-off worth, and if they lose K1 Pro, I think the answer is yes. That is going to knock him back downwards around that flank and that choke. Can it get around him? It cannot, and that actually gets the knockback, so K1 Pro survives. That was a pixel away from being one dead Stukov. Crowan trying to get the kite out, will do so after a nice cleanse from BBJ.
I'm going to have to change his name to Cat1 Pro because he's got 9 lives, man. He is just not dying. He is somehow single-handedly defending that bottom lane, making all the right plays, the lurking arms, the silences, the massive shoves. Everything he is doing is almost Perfect. Now we've got 29-8 in favor of Simplicity. They're going to eat some grenades along the way, keep this bell tower alive as long as possible. We are looking at double altar phase in the top. Should Simplicity win a team fight, they could end this game in the next phase.
It's very necessary, I'm going to say. It is absolutely demanding HeroesHearth get aggressive at this moment in time, but when they get caught out like that, lurking arm follow-up from K1 Pro, we were kind of quote posing, you know, is it going to be the Garrosh and having Key Caffeine on that ETC? We see the answer very clearly now. Mac able to make it out here of the Warden's Cage. Prismat maybe out too far. Mage Spear goes in. He gets pulled in twice. Spinning the wind, trying to keep himself alive. Tether number 3 there from Zuna. Tranquility dropped.
That's got to be frustrating. McIntyre's like, leave me alone, man.
I mean, at the same time, I just got a Warden's Cage as I have what is possibly a game-losing altar phase to spawn. That's something that I feel like you've got to be confident about, but absolutely, definitely annoying there for McIntyre.
We're still waiting on that mosh pit. He has not pulled the trigger on that once, and he hasn't had to, Trip. But that is going to be the threat here. If Simplicity opts to concede one altar and they trade off here, I would not be surprised. Play for the late game. See if they can make that happen. Use the Warden's Cage later.
Made the rotation. Went really risky there to go with the tower, or excuse me, the town portal. Odin used. Cap starts the channel. Sonya's going to pick up hers because that's a one-man defense here. Crowan eats a jet propulsion. Damage is there. Zuna's going to go ahead and pull Odin back. Crowan trying to get the kite out. Cleanse dropped. Sonya is still yet to consume those shots. There they are. McIntyre now looking to join the team. HeroesHearth needs to win this fight here. They are so far behind.
Just remember, when Odin's out, there is no grenade. It takes away one of the interrupts. So if you can get on that Junkrat, you can potentially go in there. But Simplicity, they're starting to fall back. HeroesHearth moving forward. They're trying to find their way in.
ETC above, looking for the collapse. This is going to be King Caffeine coming in
Party
for the Mosh
time.
Pod. Mosh Pit Dream. Sanctification is there, yet to pull the trigger. Power slide in. Mosh Pit, who's he find? That is 3 members of HeroesHearth locked down. 4-for-0 trade immediately. Zuna getting that tether onto Arthlon, and now that is just cleaning house here. I say that, but actually Zuna having to use the vault. Arth making it very problematic on that chase.
It's done. This is an altar and a boss, Dreadnought. It's over. There is nothing Arthlon can do here. If Arthlon pulls this off, I will concede that he is the greatest player alive. But this is Simplicity coming out in dominant fashion. 13 kills to 0. What do you think those comms are like? Guys, we're down 2-0. Turn it up.
They are a team of momentum. They found a moment of it at the very beginning of this game, finding one pick, and it did not stop there. Snowball kept rolling here for Simplicity.
Sometimes it is that moment, Dredd. You got to own it.
Sorry, had to move my stool. But no, that was very, very well done from beginning to end on side of Simplicity. It's one of those moments where you go, every altar phase, this isn't looking too good, you know, on the other side. And it really all started around that first initiation, losing the first sappers, and Simplicity starting that. And again, it was time and time again, they had to get the sappers, match them into the bottom bell tower, and get that conversion. And with the range disadvantage, and mainly the Junkrat pick, I hate to bring it up, but he did nothing over the first stage of the game. Not that Junkrat in itself did, but the rotations, the fact that he was the you're going to stick mid character out of everyone there and not be the bottom defender, I mean, that is what Junkrat is built to do other than those team fights. And I can't help but feel like that was a little bit of why, you know, they were so set behind in that game.
But K1 Pro,
I mean,
not once, but twice in that bot lane. Like, that bell tower is under assault, has Tychus Junkrat on it, and you're like, all right, this is probably done. The Riptire comes out, shoves them away. 2 people come down, shoves them away. Oh, Tychus wants to come in after the shove. Here's a silence. Like, what did he not do there? Minions are moving in. Can I get out of here alive? There's a Riptire after me. I'm cool. Like, just walk away. Like, no big deal. Like, to me, that is surprising because there's very few heroes in the game that can get away with that. And there's probably very few heroes or very few players that can pull it off quite like K1 Pro did.
I definitely can attest to there are very few players that can do it and make it look as good as K1 Pro. Not only just in the support role, just Heroes in Storm in general. I mean, since the guy has picked up a mouse and keyboard, and I'm lucky enough to play against him, with him once in a while, like, I mean, the guy is amazing. And it's honestly very impressive to see his transition over the support and that it's been that smooth. You know, I want to put him Shad Stukov level, but I mean, he's still making some pretty cheeky plays.
He hasn't had time yet. He hasn't had time. We're actually, I think, going to take a look at that again because it's cool enough. I think we got to take a second look at it. I mean, look at this. I mean, at what point do you think, oh, this is a winning trade? I'm okay here.
I mean, probably never.
I wish we would have got like the 5-10 seconds before that, because they had pushed Junkrat away.
Oh, we've got the 5
Oh, yeah,
seconds.
there we go.
Here we go.
Because the Junkrat actually gets pushed away. Like, you can see on the minimap, right? Junkrat gets shoved away. This is minimap watching 101, right? Junkrat goes flying right there, man. And Crowan's like, we got this. Puts down the silence. And then Junkrat's using the Riptire from half a map away almost.
The one thing here that I would argue that might be possible, granted that was perfect timing on the passive as well from K1 Pro, is maybe if they hold off a smidge, a fraction longer on the Riptire, the knockback would be enough to get the displacement to where this transition wouldn't be smooth enough from Simplicity. But, I mean, we're nitpicking here, and still, it's not like K1 literally did everything you need to do in that type of situation to minimize the damage. Like, and at the point, at the Riptire, that's just one of those, like, I'm just trying to gain as much distance as possible so Calf can make the rotation. It was pretty.
I just want to know, like, in that moment, are you like, man, this is a really tough moment? Or is he just like, nah, I'm good. Yeah, okay. Yeah, just walk away. Like, is he cool in that situation? Or